Have you ever looked at the lines on your palm and wondered, what secrets do they hold? Is it possible that these intricate patterns in your hands could reveal something as profound as your destiny, or even the time of your death? For centuries, palmistry has fascinated people across cultures, promising glimpses into the future through the lines etched in our palms. But what if there's a deeper way to understand what these lines truly mean? What if, instead of fixating on predictions, we use them as a way to understand our inner journey? Today, we're diving into a unique blend of ancient palmistry and the timeless wisdom of Buddhism. We'll explore how these two worlds come together, challenging the idea of fixed fates and encouraging us to look at life's mysteries from a new perspective. Instead of asking, "When will I die?" we'll ask, "How can I live more meaningfully, knowing that life is ever-changing?" If you're curious about what your hands might say about your spiritual path, or if you've ever wanted to see beyond the surface of palm reading, this is the journey for you. Let's uncover the real message hidden within the lines of your palm, one that speaks not just of fate, but of transformation, mindfulness, and the power of the present moment. Palmistry, or the art of reading palms, has roots in ancient cultures, tracing back thousands of years. It's a practice that seeks to reveal details about a person's character, destiny, and even potential health through the patterns in their hands. At the same time, Buddhism offers a different lens through which to understand life and the inevitable passage of time, focusing on concepts like impermanence, karma, and mindfulness. When these two seemingly distinct traditions come together, they create a unique blend of ancient wisdom. In this context, reading a palm is not merely about predicting an exact moment of death, but rather about deepening one's understanding of the journey through life and the cycles that shape it. In traditional palmistry, the lines on our hands are believed to be reflections of the path we walk in life. The lifeline, for instance, is one of the most famous features of the palm. It's often seen as a map of one's vitality, physical health, and significant life events. Many people mistakenly assume that the length of the lifeline corresponds directly to lifespan, believing that a longer line means a longer life. Yet palm readers with deeper knowledge see it as more complex. They view the lifeline as a mirror, showing not just years lived, but the depth of a person's experiences, their resilience, and how they've navigated challenges. Now let's add a Buddhist perspective. Buddhism teaches that life is not a simple straight line from birth to death. It's a continuous cycle of samsara, the process of birth, death, and rebirth, influenced by karma. Karma in Buddhism is not some mystical force, but the accumulation of one's actions, thoughts, and intentions throughout life. These actions shape future experiences, creating ripples that extend beyond this lifetime into the next. According to the Buddha, life is like a flowing river, where each action and thought we put into the world affects the current, altering its course. With this understanding, the idea of fixed lifespans or predetermined death dates becomes less meaningful. Instead, the focus shifts to how we live each moment and the intentions behind our actions. In palmistry, a person might examine the shape and depth of the lifeline, or perhaps look for faint lines that cross it, called interference lines. These features might be interpreted as signals of stress, challenges, or changes in health. Yet, from a Buddhist point of view, such interpretations can be seen as reflections of the ever-changing nature of our existence. The Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent, subject to change, and the same applies to the lines on our palms. They shift over time, evolving just as our experiences and state of mind do. A line that appears today might fade tomorrow, or a new line might emerge, just as the circumstances of our lives change. A Buddhist approach to palmistry invites us to see beyond the idea of fate being set in stone. Instead, it encourages an understanding that while certain tendencies might be present, we have the power to shape our path through our thoughts and actions. Buddhism doesn't deny that there are physical signs or patterns that may hint at aspects of a person's journey. but it places greater emphasis on cultivating awareness and accepting the unpredictable nature of life. By reading the lines on one's palm, a person is not just seeking to decode their future, but engaging in a process of self-reflection, understanding how their actions and mindset might shape their present and future experiences. Understanding the lines and symbols in one's palm can also take on a deeper spiritual dimension. Each line, the lifeline, the heartline, and the headline, carries its own significance. The lifeline is often seen as a marker of a person's physical vitality, but from a Buddhist perspective, it might also represent the ebb and flow of one's energy, their connection to the world around them, and their ability to adapt to life's changes. It's not about pinpointing when someone will die, but rather about recognizing periods of strength and struggle, how one's spirit has weathered different storms, and how deeply a person engages with the life they have. The heartline, which relates to emotions and relationships, could be interpreted in a way that aligns with Buddhist teachings on compassion and connection. A strong, clear heartline might suggest a person with an open heart, capable of deep empathy, while breaks or forks in the line could hint at periods of emotional upheaval. Yet, rather than focusing on what these changes predict, a Buddhist approach might see them as opportunities to practice compassion, both for oneself and others, to learn the lessons life brings. The lines then become reminders of the constant shifts in our emotional and spiritual lives, rather than fixed indicators of what's to come. Similarly, the headline is traditionally associated with a person's intellectual life and decision-making abilities. A Buddhist perspective might interpret the quality of this line as a reflection of mindfulness, clarity, and the degree to which a person is free from distractions. Where traditional palmistry might see a break in the headline as a sign of mental strain, Buddhism would encourage using such signs as a prompt to cultivate greater awareness, to meditate on the nature of the mind and its attachments. Here, the interpretation becomes less about prediction and more about growth and self-understanding. While many people turn to palmistry hoping for concrete answers about their future, Buddhism offers a contrasting approach. The Buddha emphasized that the future is shaped by our present actions and intentions. This perspective naturally challenges the desire to predict the exact timing of death. Instead, it encourages us to focus on how to live meaningfully with the time we have. The palm's lines might shift with age, and new markings might appear much like the changes in our lives and experiences. For a Buddhist, these shifts could serve as gentle reminders of life's transient nature, urging one to remain aware of the impermanence that lies at the heart of existence. The idea that one can predict the moment of death by studying the palm is an oversimplification when viewed through the Buddhist lens. The Buddha taught that death is a natural part of the cycle of life. It is uncertain, unpredictable, and can come at any moment, just as a leaf might fall from a tree without warning. This is not a perspective of fear, but one of acceptance, reminding us to live each moment with intention. For those who practice palmistry, this means looking at the lines on their hand as a way to understand their strengths, challenges, and potential, not as a means to escape the reality of death. By focusing on self-reflection rather than seeking definitive answers, this approach to palm reading aligns with Buddhist values of mindfulness and self-awareness. It transforms the act of reading palms into a spiritual exercise, one that helps individuals connect more deeply with themselves and the world around them. It is not about looking for signs of doom or longevity, but about seeing the palm as a living record of one's journey through life. The changes in lines become symbols of transformation, inviting individuals to adapt and grow with each new phase. In Buddhist teachings, the palm is just one of many reflections of the self, much like a mirror. But what the mirror shows us is always subject to change, and perhaps this is the most valuable lesson to draw from combining palmistry with Buddhist wisdom, that life, in all its complexity, cannot be reduced to a fixed fate. Instead, it's a dance between destiny and free will, a process where the journey matters far more than any attempt to pin down its end. By embracing this view, individuals can find a deeper peace, allowing the knowledge of life's impermanence to shape how they approach each day. It becomes less about asking, "When will I die?" and more about asking, "How will I live knowing that life is fleeting?" The idea of predicting the time of death through palmistry can seem appealing. After all, knowing when our final day might come feels like it would offer a sense of control or preparedness. But this desire to predict is rooted in a deeper human need to grasp what lies beyond the horizon, to navigate the unknown. Yet, Buddhism challenges this way of thinking. Instead of trying to control the future, the teachings of the Buddha invite us to let go of the illusion that we can know or control when death will come. In this way, the practice of palmistry takes on a new dimension, not as a tool to predict the future, but as a way to reflect on the present and understand the ebb and flow of life. In Buddhism, the notion that one could pinpoint the exact moment of death would be seen as an attachment to the idea of permanence, something the Buddha taught to be an illusion. Life, as we know it, is impermanent. Everything is in constant motion. From the seasons changing to the rise and fall of emotions, impermanence is woven into every moment. The Buddha himself said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Trying to predict the moment of death, then, could become a distraction from truly living, an effort to cling to something unknowable. When a palm reader studies the lifeline, looking for potential disruptions or breaks, it's easy to see why people might think of these markings as signs of danger or warnings of an approaching end. Yet, in a Buddhist view, these breaks and lines are better seen as symbols of life's natural uncertainties. A break in the lifeline might coincide with a significant health challenge or an unexpected change, but it doesn't have to spell the end. Rather, it's a reminder that life is not a straight path. It's filled with turns, pauses, and moments of transformation. To live with the constant awareness of death is, according to Buddhist teachings, a path to liberation, not fear. This awareness encourages one to live fully in each moment, appreciating the preciousness of life without becoming obsessed with its inevitable end. A Buddhist would look at these marks on the palm and see them as an opportunity to practice mindfulness and reflection. Instead of worrying about what they might mean for the future, the focus would be on what they reveal about the present state of mind, body, and spirit. The lines might prompt a person to ask themselves, "Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I nurturing my relationships, my body, my mind?" By shifting the focus from trying to control the unknown to embracing what is happening right now, palmistry can become a doorway into deeper self-awareness rather than a method of forecasting doom. The teachings of the Buddha are filled with stories and analogies about the transient nature of life. One such story tells of a farmer who, while digging in his field, finds a withered skull. Disturbed, he brings it to the Buddha and asks, "What happened to this person that he ended up like this?" The Buddha answers, "This is the fate of all living beings. Whether king or commoner, all must face the end of life." This story reminds us that the specifics of when and how are less important than the universal truth that life is fragile and time is fleeting. The goal is not to fixate on the moment of death, but to be mindful of how we live. Palmistry's symbols can thus become prompts for reflection rather than fixed prophecies. A faint line crossing the lifeline might inspire thoughts about a challenging time in the past, or encourage gratitude for having overcome adversity. A break in the line could remind one of the need to care for their health or to let go of stressors that weigh heavily on the heart. In this way, the practice becomes less about predicting an endpoint and more about making conscious choices in the present. Buddhism teaches that life is a series of moments, each one an opportunity for compassion, for connection, and for awakening. And so the lines on a person's palm become less about forecasting fate and more about engaging fully with each breath they take. Turning to the practical side of palm reading, many who study their palms are drawn to the idea that their hands can tell them about their future. It's easy to see why. The lifeline seems to suggest a story of strength and endurance. The heartline speaks to our emotional core, and the headline to our intellect and decision-making. Yet, it's crucial to remember that palmistry is not an exact science. The patterns in a palm offer insights, not certainties. And in the context of Buddhist philosophy, these insights should be approached with a sense of curiosity rather than rigidity. Reading the palm, for many, begins with tracing the lifeline. It curves around the base of the thumb, following a path that seems to mirror the arc of life itself. A long, unbroken lifeline is often seen as a sign of robust health and vitality, while a shorter line might suggest a need to pay closer attention to one's well-being. But rather than taking these interpretations as set in stone, Buddhism would encourage a more open-minded approach. For example, if a palm reading suggests a time of health struggles, this could serve as a reminder to practice self-care, to make mindful choices about diet, exercise, and mental well-being. It's less about predicting suffering and more about recognizing the ways in which we can influence our own well-being through the choices we make each day. The heartline offers another layer of understanding. In palmistry, this line is associated with emotional life, relationships, and the capacity for love. A clear and deep heartline might be seen as a sign of a person who feels emotions intensely, who is open to deep connections with others. In contrast, a faint or broken heartline could indicate struggles with expressing feelings or past emotional pain. Yet, from a Buddhist perspective, these interpretations become less about labeling a person as loving or closed off, and more about understanding the nature of their heart's journey. Perhaps a broken heartline is a reminder to practice self-compassion, to heal old wounds, and to cultivate a sense of loving kindness for oneself and others. Similarly, the headline represents how a person thinks, how they make decisions, and their intellectual approach to life. A straight headline might suggest logical, practical thinking, while a curved line could indicate creativity and intuition. In a Buddhist context, understanding these qualities can help a person identify their strengths and the areas where they might be clinging too tightly to certain thought patterns. For instance, if a headline reveals a tendency towards rigid thinking, it could be an opportunity to practice letting go, embracing the flexibility and fluidity that are core to Buddhist teachings. Yet, as much as the palm offers glimpses into these aspects of life, Buddhism always returns to the idea that such interpretations should be taken lightly. The Buddha warned against becoming too attached to beliefs or practices that promise to reveal the future. He emphasized that the real work of spiritual growth lies in understanding the mind, in seeing through illusions, and in letting go of the desire to control what cannot be controlled. Palmistry then becomes a mirror, not one that shows a clear reflection of the future, but one that helps reveal the habits, strengths, and tendencies that shape how we walk through life. For someone deeply engaged in the practice of reading palms, these insights become tools for self-awareness rather than definitive guides. A person might notice that their lifeline has shifted over the years, perhaps becoming more pronounced after a period of intense self-care, or growing fainter during times of stress. Such changes reflect the way our inner state affects our physical being, a concept that aligns with Buddhist teachings on the interconnectedness of mind and body. Rather than predicting death, these shifts in the palm suggest that change is the only constant, a truth that is as much spiritual as it is physical. The Buddha taught that the path to enlightenment involves looking inward, understanding one's thoughts, feelings, and actions, and how they contribute to the cycle of suffering and rebirth. In this way, studying the lines on one's hand becomes an act of self-study. It is a reminder that while we cannot control every aspect of our fate, we can cultivate a mindful approach to the journey. We can use these symbols as guides to live with greater awareness, compassion, and acceptance of the uncertainty that lies at the heart of existence. This approach encourages a shift from the mindset of seeking certainty to embracing the mysteries of life. It's about realizing that the value of palmistry lies not in its potential to predict, but in its ability to deepen our understanding of ourselves. The lines on a person's palm become like pages in a book that is continually being written, not by fate alone, but by each choice, thought, and intention. And in reading this book, we learn not when our story will end, but how to fill each chapter with meaning. Beyond the fascination with palmistry lies a deeper spiritual path, one that transcends the idea of simply reading lines to understand the future. Buddhism invites us to look beyond surface-level interpretations and instead focus on what truly matters, the cultivation of inner peace, mindfulness, and compassion. Rather than using palmistry as a tool for predicting the future, it can become a guide for self-discovery, a way to see how our actions and thoughts shape our lives. When we look at our palms with a Buddhist mindset, we shift our attention away from seeking exact answers and towards embracing the spiritual journey that each line represents. Imagine looking at your palm not as a map to your fate, but as a reminder of the qualities you are nurturing within yourself. Each line, each curve can serve as a prompt to reflect on how you're living your life right now. If the lifeline seems faint, maybe it's a sign to reconnect with your vitality through physical health, through nurturing relationships, through finding joy in everyday moments. A broken line doesn't need to be a source of fear, but rather a nudge to be gentle with yourself during difficult times. Buddhism teaches that true strength comes from accepting life's ups and downs with grace, understanding that suffering is a part of the human experience, and using that understanding to deepen compassion for oneself and others. When we approach palmistry with this mindset, we realize that it's not about uncovering some hidden destiny, but about becoming more present with who we are. The heart line, which traces the emotional landscape, can remind us to practice loving kindness, starting with ourselves. Maybe it's about letting go of past hurts, about forgiving others and ourselves for mistakes. It's about seeing the potential for love in every moment, even when it's challenging. And in that process, the line becomes less of a predictor and more of a reflection of the emotional journey you're on. The focus shifts to how you can create more space for kindness in your life, how you can allow your heart to open wider with each experience. The headline too takes on a new significance. It's no longer just about how you think or how you make decisions. It's about how you bring mindfulness into your thoughts. Are you stuck in patterns of worry, or are you allowing yourself to think freely, to adapt and flow with the changes life brings? The headline can remind you to challenge rigid thinking, to embrace curiosity, and to cultivate a mind that is open to new ideas. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a garden. What you plant and nurture will grow. If you water seeds of patience, understanding, and curiosity, you'll find yourself living with more clarity and peace. Meditation and mindfulness play a central role in this process of self-discovery. Instead of seeking out answers from the lines on your palm, Buddhism encourages turning inward, focusing on the breath and observing the mind. It's about watching the thoughts and emotions that arise, understanding their impermanent nature, and letting them go. This practice helps to quiet the desire to know exactly what the future holds, replacing it with a sense of contentment in the present moment. In this way, meditation complements the insights gained from palmistry, providing a space where one can integrate what they've learned into their daily life. And yet the spiritual path in Buddhism goes even deeper than meditation or reflection. It's about embodying the qualities that one learns from the practice. If your palm's lines suggest a life that has been marked by hardship, this becomes an opportunity to cultivate resilience and compassion, both for yourself and for others who face struggles. Buddhism teaches that we are all interconnected, that the suffering of one is linked to the suffering of all. As you look at the lines in your palm, you might consider how your challenges have prepared you to be a source of strength for others. Instead of seeing these lines as predictions of hardship, they become markers of the wisdom you've gained and the compassion you can offer to those around you. This perspective allows us to approach palmistry without the need for superstition. It's not about finding omens in the hands, but about using the symbols as reminders to live more fully, to engage with life's mysteries with a sense of wonder rather than anxiety. Buddhism, at its heart, is about letting go of the fear of the unknown and embracing the present with an open heart. Palmistry, when combined with this philosophy, becomes a practice that encourages not just self-awareness, but a broader understanding of our place in the world, of how our actions ripple outwards and affect others. In this way, the palm becomes more than a tool for self-study. It becomes a guide for living with purpose. It reminds us that every day is a new opportunity to shape our destiny through our thoughts, words, and actions. The lines are not fixed, they change as we change, reflecting the ways we've grown, the challenges we've faced, and the love we've given. Rather than asking, "What does my palm say about when I will die?" the focus shifts to, "What does my palm say about how I'm living? Am I living in a way that brings peace, joy, and kindness to myself and others?" And as we step further along this path, we realize that life is not about the destination, but the journey itself. Each line on the palm becomes a testament to that journey, a record of the joys, the sorrows, the lessons learned, and the love shared. This is where the teachings of Buddhism and the practice of palmistry find their deepest resonance. It's not about fixing our gaze on a distant future or fearing what might come. It's about embracing the moment with all its imperfections and understanding that in every breath lies the potential for transformation. As we bring this reflection to a close, I hope you can see how palmistry, when viewed through the lens of Buddhist teachings, offers a path to deeper understanding rather than a strict roadmap to destiny. It encourages us to look inward, to be mindful of our actions, and to live with a sense of compassion for ourselves and others. The lines on our palms are not static, they change as we change. And in those changes, we find the beauty of life's unpredictability, the dance of fate and free will. So, take a moment to look at your own palm, not with a desire to know when the end will come, but with a sense of appreciation for the journey you're on. Each line is a reminder that you are alive, that your story is still being written, and that every moment is an opportunity to shape that story with intention and love. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of palmistry and Buddhist wisdom. May you find peace in the mysteries of life, and may each day be filled with mindful awareness and a heart open to all that is yet to come.